Fear, an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. It's what keeps people awake at night and fearing for their lives. What if I told you there was a man who literally instilled fear in other alpha males? A man so intimidating that he showed up to a team meeting in handcuffs. A man whose nose single-handedly saved Colombia from economic depression. This man was so dominant in the NFL that he sparked a rule change to help the offense. Even Bill Belichick said that this man was the best player he's coached, and he's had the opportunity of coaching Tom Brady. His name is Lawrence Taylor. What caused Lawrence Taylor to be so dominant and feared amongst his peers? Was it the fact that he was part of a play so gruesome that YouTube would take it down immediately if I showed it? Or the fact that his hobby including beating up drug dealers? Is there any truth to the fact that he tore down a backboard versus an NBA star that only the likes of Shaq were able to accomplish? He was literally known to convince himself of anything, like the time where he talked about how he literally convinced himself of invincibility that helped him play through injuries. Imagine facing off against that. His on-field destruction and terror even followed him off the field, countless times failing the NFL's substance abuse policy and using his teammates' urine to try to cheat his way out of it. His home had been known as a crack house, and he was caught saying that crack was his only sense of enjoyment. He had even gone as far as hiring prostitutes for his opponents to attempt to tire them out. But that wasn't enough for LT. As recent as 2010, LT was caught with a 16-year-old prostitute. This is the story of the craziest, most feared player in a barbaric sport full of the scariest alpha males you can find.
LT was a bad motherfucker.
LT has not only had one of the most chaotic and feared careers in the NFL, but also one of the most demented lives of any human being. But the early stories of his life might be some of the most interesting ones. In college, one of the coaches recalls seeing some of the most superhuman things from him. As a freshman playing on special teams, he jumped a good 6 or 7 feet in the air to block a punt, then land on the back of his neck, said North Carolina assistant coach Bobby Cale. He was reckless, just reckless. Things like that garnered him the nickname Godzilla. But that single instance doesn't warrant the name of Godzilla as much as the next things do. Some of his college roommates would purposefully antagonize LT, saying he had no respect downtown from the townfolk. So, LT proceeded to walk down to the bar and tear it up into pieces, breaking everything he saw in sight, just like he did on the gridiron. Did you know there was literally only one player that Jordan feared playing basketball versus? It was LT. However, Pearson claims that there was only one former Tar Heel that actually scared Jordan. There is one guy that I always thought, and I know to this day, I don't know if Michael won't admit it or not, but I swear that he had a little bit of fear of. And it wasn't a basketball player. It was a football player by the name of Lawrence Taylor. LT, phenomenal athlete, could guard east to west as quick as anybody, could jump, big hands, strong, and was a bit of crazy. So, Michael in the back of his mind said, I better be careful with this guy. And LT always wanted to guard him. NBA star Daughtery added, everyone thinks I'm crazy when I say this, but Lawrence Taylor could have played in the NBA. He's so quick and so strong. I've never seen a guy that big who could jump that high. That wasn't all, as there is truth to the story of him tearing down the rim, as Daughtery recalls. We were playing when Lawrence walked in and said, I want to play. We said, we're almost done. You can have the next game. LT said, I want to play now. I said, Lawrence, be patient. 4 more points. He said, if I ain't playing, no damn buddy's playing. He reached up and tore down the rim and backboard and walked away with it. This is all before he even got drafted, where LT wrapped up things to a whole different level. Imagine the single day where all your dreams and hard work, blood, sweat, and tears all lead up to a single day. For athletes, it's the day they get drafted. A day they don't want to forget and want to relive it as many times as possible. LT was no different, right? Wrong. By now, you should know that LT isn't a normal human like me or you. This man was known for instilling fear in Michael Jordan. LT doesn't recall being drafted at all because he had downed 41 Coors Lights. That much alcohol would probably kill most of us easily. Once drafted, LT made it clear that he would not sign for anything less than $250,000 per year, which was unheard of during those days. He needed that money to provide for the $1,000 a day that he spent on his crack addiction. The insane moments from his early career days continued, as a teammate recalled that he would drink so much liquor that it would literally come out of his pores. And if that wasn't enough, LT would chug something that was worse than liquor. What could that possibly be? This man regularly chugged a mouthwash in order to mask the liquor smell during team meetings. Now, what can make a team put up with such asinine behavior? Well, LT was a talent that still to this day we have not seen. His reign was so dominant that he forced a rule change to help out the offense, which still did not slow him down. He is the last defensive player who won the NFL MVP, and he accomplished that on the back of some historical stats. 132.5 career sacks, 10-time Pro Bowler, 8-team first-team All-Pro, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, and one of the highest sack rates per game. Also, did I fail to mention that his dominance made the NFL include sacks as a stat? So add those numbers on top as well. He instilled such a fear amongst grown men in the sport that quarterbacks made sure to identify where LT was before the play, but they did not dare make eye contact. In an interview, LT was asked if he ever had the chance of locking eyes with the quarterback. He responded, "Once." The reporter said, "What happened?" "I winked," LT replied. Every time before a play, the offense would start screaming, 56 left, 56 left. After the play was over, LT would tell them to not worry where he was at, and that he'll tell them when he would get there. The single game that probably defined LT the most was versus the Saints. He had a shoulder injury so bad that doctors said those type of injuries prevented people from doing the most trivial activities, like combing hair. However, LT single-handedly won the Giants the game. As a defensive player, playing with only one good shoulder, he would finish the game with 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a batted ball. All was good with LT. He had 2 Super Bowls to his name, he was a dominant force on the field, and was a party animal off the field, until it all came crashing down. LT was involved in a car crash in Saddlebrook. He had lost control of his car, which had caused him to go head-on with a concrete median. Obviously, unlike any other human, uninjured LT ran away from the scene and was found 6 hours later. Luckily, even with all these encounters with death, he survived and would arguably go on to being one of the best defensive players in NFL history, and would live on and give us moments like these. Taylor is regarded as one of the most dreadful and horrific human beings. So, it makes sense that he was a part of one of the most gruesome moments in NFL history. A moment so bad that if I posted a clip, YouTube would take my account down immediately. In a play versus Hall of Fame quarterback Joe Theismann, LT came barreling down on Joe. What proceeded was LT's knee ramming into Joe's leg, causing him to break his lower leg bones between his ankle and knee. ESPN later voted that play as the NFL's most shocking moment in history. LT was on a tear in the NFL, becoming an unstoppable force. He was so much better than the rest of the guys that he didn't even hide his off-field activities, which involved some of the craziest party stories ever. Normally, professional athletes cannot support such lifestyles, as they would quickly find themselves declining. But LT regularly did these sort of things, from partying all night to sleeping through team meetings. But no one could say anything to LT, because in a moment's notice, LT could break down the team's scheme for the given week. LT and his roommate recall some of the crazy nights where they only had 2 things in the fridge: beer and a strawberry-flavored penicillin for any disease that they pick up from the wrong woman. LT would even order 6 prostitutes a day for himself. This was one crazy man, but that's not even it. LT would easily handle those 6 prostitutes, but he knew his opponents couldn't. So, he would order some more prostitutes and send them over to opposing players' rooms to tire them out. With the constant drinking, drug abuse, late-night parties, LT knew he was no longer going to be at 100%, but he also knew that his 75% was still better than the rest of the league. Pair that with the fact that he knew he wouldn't get arrested. LT felt untouchable and said this in his book: "Not as long as I was who I was and my game was intact. If I were Joe Blow," he said, "okay, there'd be the slammer." It was almost a thrill in itself knowing that people knew what I was doing and wouldn't do a damn thing to stop me. Untouchable and feared he was. The whole world knew LT was living a crazy life off the field, living a lifestyle that no one in the right mind would dream of. Drug addiction so bad that one knows was single-handedly supporting an entire country's economy. But at the same time, he was still showing up to the gridiron to face off against some of the scariest humans amongst us, who we consider monsters and intimidating. He was the monster's monster, unstoppable from every aspect in life. Despite all of LT's success, his character remained in question, and frankly, oftentimes it was for good reason. After being retired, LT was not finished making headlines. One night, trying to feed his drug addiction, LT was driving around looking for a possible dealer, where he recalls this happening: "I saw 3 guys who looked like they were carrying. They were all young black dudes, but I couldn't tell you nothing else about them. I pulled over in my Cadillac, and one guy got in the front seat and one guy got in the back. I didn't like that, so I said, 'Yo, I don't want 2 guys in my car.' But the 3rd guy standing outside pulled out some crack, so I bought it. Then, I noticed the guy in the front seat was looking hard at my gold Rolex with diamonds. I had a bad feeling, so I said, 'Y'all have to get out of my car.' The guy in the back seat got out, but the guy in the front seat turned towards me, stuck a gun in my face, and said, 'Give me the watch, mother.' I said, 'No problem, bro. Just don't shoot.' I gave him the watch. Then he said he wanted my diamond pinky ring. He just started tugging on it. I was like, 'Hey man, I'll get it off.' I handed him the ring. Then he handed his gun to the guy standing outside the car and told him to get in. Now, I realized they're about to jack me. The guy with the gun pulled on the back door, but the door was locked, so his pal in the front seat had to reach over and unlock it. As he opened the door, I saw my opening. I slammed the caddy into drive and stomped on the gas. I banged over the curb, swerving like a crazy man, and the guy sitting next to me was screaming, 'Stop, mother, I'm gonna kill you!' We go about 200 yards before I remember this punk ain't got no gun. He gave it to the other guy, so I screeched to a stop and started pounding him in the face. I wasn't scared now. 'Where's my Bam! Give me my bam, bam!' The passenger door was still open, so I grabbed the punk by the neck and shoved him out of the car, and then I drove home and smoked his crack. Incidents like this followed LT all throughout his life and overshadowed his greatness, and will always be linked to the greatest defensive player in the NFL. But maybe that added to the aura of LT, who is the most feared man in the NFL history. From single-handedly causing the NFL to start incorporating sacks as a stat, to instilling so much fear in opposing players with his greatness that he caused a rule change in favor of the offense. All this would not slow down LT, however, as he left a lasting legacy with some of the most amazing things you can hear about an athlete. But will all that matter? As he will never get full credit for his accomplishments and has a tainted legacy, with many people even requesting for him to be the first ever player to be kicked out of the Hall of Fame. It's hard for him to blame anyone but himself. If you enjoyed, please hit the sub and like button.